Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, and we want to welcome you to the Connected Corner. As you see, it's your girl, Kiana B. Jones, here tonight on the Connected Corner, and my co-host, Tori Rose the Connector, is off tonight. So she has the night off. She may pop in with some comments, but we're staying busy in the world, and so she is taking care of some other business for us tonight. So you have me, your girl, Kiana B. Jones, and today is Tuesday. And we are happy to be at the Connector Corner. And so I don't know if you all know, but today is Fat Tuesday, Pancake Day, Shrove Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. And so today, we eat pancakes all day. And some of the tradition is that it's 40 days before Easter. And so before you start Lent, is basically like you pig out. And so that is Fat Tuesday. It is a tradition in my family. We've done it since I was a little girl. My great grandmother would make pancakes all day, and we could have breakfast for dinner. She would throw in some bacon and eggs and applesauce. So for those who celebrate Pancake Tuesday, I hope you are enjoying your pancakes today. And so again, this the Connected Corner. Thank you for joining us. We want you to drop in and let us know where you're watching us from. If you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on YouTube, let us know where you're watching us tonight. And we want you to join the conversation tonight. And then make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for all those that are watching. We want to shout out our sponsors for the Connected Corner. Nicotine Media, our producer that we have in Nicotine Media Studios, Radio on Fire, and WMEG Radio. So make sure you check them out, follow their pages. They are part of the Connected Corner family, and we thank them for their support. We want to say happy birthday. It's still Aquarius season to all the Aquarius out there. To a friend of the Connected Corner, Lionel Reeves, happy birthday to you. And I'm wearing this lovely shirt tonight. I want to shout out APH Studios. This shirt or design that I'm wearing tonight is actually a collaboration between APH Studios and the Superiors. So you can follow them on Instagram. That's APH. So it's a Poet's Heaven Studios. And the Superiors are on Instagram. Follow them. They have great design, great apparel that you can purchase. So get your, your new apparel and rock it. Okay. So it is special design. Designs that you're not going to find anywhere else, one of a kind. So check them out. And so tonight, on the Connected Corner, we are going to be talking about connect your finances to your future. And so we know people like to talk about money. People like to make money. But when you start talking about saving money and really getting into those conversations about finances, it's not the most fun topic, right? But we're going to make it as fun as we can make it tonight. And we're going to answer some of those questions you may have out there. We're in a very trying time. We've been through recession and all of these different things. So it's very timely that we talk about that tonight. So we're going to talk about your finances and connecting it to the future and making sure that you have enough finances for your future. And our guest tonight is going to help me do that. I'm going to bring to the screen the phenomenal Mr. Jeffery Shepherd. And so Jeffery is a trainer and manager in financial services, and he's going to join us tonight on the Connected Corner. He's going to share some timely information with us. I'm so glad to have another brother here working with us tonight and talking about finances. I know it's something that I have to deal with in my daily life. And so it is something that we want to talk about. And so Jeffery is here tonight. I'm excited to have him. And we're just going to rock out and talk about this subject. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make it interesting. And we want you to drop your comments, your questions. If you have questions about saving and insurance and final expenses, all of those things, as we go through these topics tonight, we want to hear from you. Drop your questions, drop your comments. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Jeffery Shepherd. from Take Charge Financial Group. I just love that name, Take Charge. Like, you got to take charge of your finances. You got to take charge of your life. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you. Yes.
perfect, perfect. Well, no, thank you for allowing me to even be a part of this platform. This is just great things that we're doing in the community, and that's really what it's all about. I mean, we can say it a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, it's all about taking charge. At the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And I love, like you said, in the community, a lot of times people don't realize, especially for those, if you're in financial services, people of color in financial services, we want to make sure that we're representing, and we are doing it for the community, right? We want, as a community, for us to just be in a better place financially. And I know that's one of the reasons, I do what I do. Having a background in accounting, helping people figure out budgets. Don't get me started on, those topics and where we need to be and how you need to spend your money and, saving and just all of those things, because it's so important. Because honestly, if you don't have the finances, if you don't have the money, you don't really have a seat at the table. And so when
Yep.
we really think about decision making and those things, nobody want to hear from the person who don't, have those things in order. And it really gives you a seat at the table, right? It gives you able to be joining that conversation about finances and what's happening. And so one of the things that you do that I found very interesting in looking at what you do is you specialize in final expense plans. So explain that, for people who may not know exactly what that means when you say final expense planning.
Absolutely. My journey's been a long one, but I have been with a wonderful company, Universal Benefits, for the past, wow, going on 5 years now. And what they do is they market for one of the largest final expense companies in the country. Before I even got into insurance, I mean, you know, but you don't really know that you don't know until you're kind of behind the scenes, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea that there was really a difference when it even comes to final expenses. Now, a lot of times people kind of confuse insurance and final expenses together. And don't get
Mm-hmm.
me wrong, they can go hand in hand, but final expenses is more about the process than just the money, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So a lot of times, well, first of all, unfortunately, in our community, we've got to get over the first initial hump of just having the finances in order, right? A lot of us don't have the money set aside, which again
Mm-hmm.
is not the worst thing. But then we don't have another plan in place, and we don't want to talk about it. Now
Okay.
that can cause a disaster.
Right.
Okay, and again, when it comes to final expenses, we think of it from a personal aspect. Okay, my clients tell me all the time, oh, they can just bury me in the back of the yard, and they really do mean that.
Right.
But
Right.
see, we don't realize final expenses is more for the family than really us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we put it off, now we put that decision into our family. And I mean, how many times have you known a family to get mad or have discourse with each other because things weren't planned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so final expenses is more than just money. It's about your legacy. It's about making sure the family is in a better position when you leave than before that situation happened. Making sure
Right.
everyone is on the same page. I just had a client the other week, and she told me literally, I didn't know my sister until my mother passed away. And it kind of hits you like, wow. And we've all heard it. And oh, we can say this and say this, but when it hits home, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, most certainly. And I have personally been through it several times. With family members. Now, my grandmother, she had her stuff, and well, She's a little controlling, love her dearly, but she had her stuff so much older. She had notes written like you was going. She literally planned out birthday gifts for like that next year or
Wow.
following year. Yeah. So that, she knew the ones that were about to graduate. And so part of her plan was to make sure and it really was like the great grandkids. It was a couple of the grandchildren that still needed to graduate. So I'm the oldest grandchild. And so my kids were actually graduating, from high school but she literally left that as part of the plan, like to make sure that the ones that were about to graduate from high school and college still got the gift that she was going to give them for high school and college. So I thought that was great. And then we've been on the other side. I had my mother passed from pancreatic cancer in 2012. And so, she had lost, work and was out of work and all that. So we always tell people you got to have insurances outside of the job.
Yep.
Because, if you get sick or something happens and you come up with the terminal disease and now you're trying to get insurance because you now have to separate from your employer. Now you're uncovered. And so that's what happened in that case. She was uncovered. And then now having the cancer, she couldn't get insured. So that was a nice chunk of change out my saves. I'm still trying to build back up since 2012, right?
Yeah.
And so, when you think about that and being in that place, and so for me, I had gotten to getting licensed in insurance before I tried it because I've always been in finances and accounting, that being my background. But after that happened, I said, you know what, I really need to get in this and understand personally dealing with it from family members or, young cousins. I grew up in Baltimore, so we've experienced, losing young ones early, due to violence and things of that nature. And so it pains me to see GoFundMes, and things of that, out there because we can plan, you know what I mean? And in some cases, it doesn't cost a whole lot, to put aside to have something in place. And, personally for me, because, it was a strain. I was like newly married then. So now I'm like putting out thousands, $10,000, for this expense because we were unable then to get my mom insured. And so personally experience that it is so important. And people do say that. And so, I had that conversation with my dad, like, look, what you doing? I'm not I'm not going to go through that again. We need a plan. So we don't have something in place. You want the pine box, you want you want the job, like where you, like you say, where
you got to give me something, you got to give me something, because again, having it in order, and again, your grandmother was phenomenal. I mean, that she just gave me an idea, but unfortunately, and especially in us men, we tend to put that off, and just we don't think past our end, so to speak. And it's really about the ones that we are leaving behind, because they're going to be the ones that have to make the decision. And especially if we have a larger family, which most of us do, siblings, brother, sister, spouse, we just want to make sure that everyone comes out smooth on the other side, and everyone is just aware of all the different things. Like you even said, most people don't realize that most insurance on the job, is only temporary. It's only contingent based upon how long you're there. So then you have so many people now finally realizing it, in their senior years, and now they do have some sort of terminal illness or health issue, and now it's either too late or it's way more expensive than they intended. So education, it starts about education and platforms like this, just to even make it aware, because again, it's one of those things that is so easily preventable through the power of compounded interest, and through that principle. And like I tell my clients, would you rather spend $2 a day now, or would you rather your daughter come out of pocket $5,000-$6,000 later? I mean, it really is that straightforward. And you know, a lot of times people don't think about that, man. I mean, people lose $2 a day. You
Right.
know, I mean, you know, you spend that on gum. You know, I mean, so. But anyway, I definitely appreciate your point there.
Yeah, I mean it's very important when you're talking about saving. And I know for years, you know, we may not have understood it in our communities, but you know, for years our counterparts use like insurance policy and things and all as wealth building.
Yep.
You know, because people say, "Oh, well, you came into wealth or you were born into money." They don't understand that a lot of that money came from insurance policies. And so when great grandmother or grandfather or somebody passed, they had $1 million, $2 million insurance policies. And so now, yes, the younger generation or that next generation are now millionaires, right? Or now have come into this money. And it's like they were born into money, but it really sometimes came from having that plan in place and having those policies to help the family, you know, in that way. And so, you know, like I said, I tell people just if you just get enough to take care of, you know, those expenses and understanding like everything involved and, you know, the insurance in itself, you still have to, like, people don't think about, you know, having your burial plot. How do you, you know, we don't want to have these conversations, but the one thing we know we all gonna do is pass away.
Exactly.
Like, as sure as anything else, we plan weddings, we save for weddings, we save for houses, we save for cars, we save for vacations, all of these things that may or may not happen in our life. But we know we all are going to experience having to pay for final expenses. Like, that's inevitable for everybody. But that's the one thing
Yep.
most people never plan for. They plan for
And
everything else.
that's kind of why, again, it is a passion of mine, and why I chose to specialize in it, because I mean, in a world of uncertainty, that really is a very certain thing. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to go through this phase. So what we try to do is just make it, again, because it is something that can be uncomfortable to talk about, because again, it sets in reality, right? But we want to make that process as smooth and easy as possible. So we actually go of helping, you know, everyone get their backing it up. You know, if they already have plots, getting that paperwork together, creating a binder, if you will, on a step-by-step guide, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Because again, you can think one way, but life can have a curveball. You know, you can, well, I told my spouse all the plans, but well, what if you and your spouse go together? You know, you want to make sure that you have everything in order, because you never know.
Right.
So you know, that's the one
Yeah.
great thing about our company. We actually understand that final expense, yes, it is about the money, and we take care of that as well. But we understand that it actually starts when we lose our loved one, and it starts at a very, you know, troublesome time in our lives. So we offer those support services throughout the entire process. We even work with the funeral homes just to make sure that no one's being emotionally taken advantage of.
Oh,
You
that's
know, no one's overpaying. Unfortunately, we've dealt with a lot of COVID fees in the past several months, and you know, like I tell my clients, and I'm telling all you listeners out there, there's no such thing as a COVID fee. That's a charge that the funeral homes are utilizing just to get some extra money. Okay, so again, we put things in place so that they can understand the laws. And most people think you got to get everything at the funeral home. Guys, I'm telling you right now, you can go to walmart.com right now. You can go to Amazon and buy the very same things that the caskets are going to sell, you know, for $5,000-$6,000. You can get those same things for literally, you know, $2,000-$3,000. So we just offer so many different resources and avenues to, again, help the final expenses, you know, become you know, smooth, and just make sure that no one is being taken advantage of.
Wow, that is just you know that people are upselling things and doing all kind of stuff during this time for COVID, and definitely want to touch on that when we talk about finances and savings throughout the conversation. But to think that people are funeral are doing that, like that is just it's so unfortunate, to take advantage of things of like that. That is just so unfortunate to do that. And thank you for giving that information out and letting the audience know that. And so, everybody, we want to hear from you. Have you experienced this during this time of COVID, where we know that we've lost family ones due to complications of COVID, but making sure that you're not being taken advantage of during this time. Do not pay any additional fees that you're not supposed to pay for your loved ones that you've lost during this time. And so we appreciate you giving that information out. And it's just unfortunate that people use times like this to take advantage of people in a very vulnerable state.
And
So
let me make a
thank you.
disclaimer. Let me make a disclaimer. I'm not saying all funeral homes, and
Right.
don't get me wrong, there are great funeral homes and funeral directors. But you have, just like money, if you want to understand money, you got to understand the back end of money, right? You got to understand there's a back end in the funeral home. Funeral home it goes off of commission. So the more that they can get you to spend, the more commission they get. Now, as long as you're educated and you understand, the different processes, then you're going to be fine either way. But the problem is most people don't know, because this is the last thing we want to talk about. So nobody really knows the true cost of a funeral. Nobody knows if they're getting taken advantage of or not, especially if they have an insurance policy, right? So again, you can have an insurance policy, and let's just say, I'm leaving $25,000 for them. That'll be enough for them to take care of the funeral and have something left over. But now you bring that policy unknowingly to the funeral home, and the funeral home tells you it's going to be $18,000. Well, you don't really have anything to compare it to. So you may very well, hey, you got 25. Oh, I'd rather get something than nothing. And you just go through it, not realizing that you probably could have got that same thing for 12,000 or 8,000. And again, who's looking at the contract in that time? It's especially in this COVID time. We just want to make sure everything is done. So again, guys, be careful. And it goes all down to, and I know we're kind of focusing on final expense, but I know the topic of this is making sure you have your finances for the future. And guys, it all comes down to education. It all comes down to your resources. I just implore all the people in my community. We've got to rid ourselves of these shadows of not sticking our nose up at each other and thinking we're trying to do each other harm, when at the end of the day, if we all come together, right, we can create something that no one can take away. And that's the greatest thing that you can have, something that no one can take away. And it starts in here. It starts with your education. So knowledge is power, but only when you apply it can it be effective. So you got to make sure that that not only do you learn it, but you apply it, and you apply it to your family. See, and I'm gonna get off on a tangent, then I'm gonna stop. This is the last point.
I mean, that's a good point. We want to make sure we say that, like you said, it's not just about having the knowledge.
You said something earlier. A lot of wealthy families did get wealthy by passing things on, like insurance and different things, right? But look behind that. The family groomed those kids from the time that they were kids. The family knew what money was. Unfortunately, most people in our community don't even want to leave their family a lot of money because they feel like it's going to be a waste. They feel like they're going to just splurge it. So see, it starts with education. It starts with the family values. It starts there, because again, it's one thing to leave your family $100,000, but leave your family $100,000 with the mission that, okay, you're going to double this for the next generation. right? Or you're going to triple this. So it is just as much as is just as much about education and your family value than anything. So I just wanted to make that statement there.
No, we definitely, that is very important. We have to groom the next generation
Yes.
and groom them, from birth. And so that's going to take us, into one of the first my key questions of the night. And so we're talking about finances, and we'll have this will be typed down also in the chat for our audience. You can also answer the questions as well and drop your answers and comments down. Even if you're watching on the replay, we want you to still participate. What are your views on goals, timelines, and measuring success? And so we're talking about having financial goals for our family or other goals for your family, bringing up that family value and education. How does that play into your views on goals, timelines, and then and measuring success? So I'll say it again. What are your views on goals, timelines, and measuring success? And we'll start with Jeffrey. So yeah, audience, if you have any of you, we can have that question. You can answer it as well. And what are your views on goals, timelines, and measuring success? So Jeffrey, we'll start with you. We have our little timer here that we have, and so we'll go through.
Put me on a time limit here. Okay, all right.
So we'll go through our little time. It's our 2-minute question segment. So what are your views on goals, timelines, and measuring success?
And I'll try to be very, very brief here, but goals, timelines, measuring success, they're essential. You can't hit a target if you don't have something to aim at, and you don't know if you need to practice if you don't know how far off you are. So goals are key. The one thing I do want to add to that, because a lot of times, and I've been victim of this too, but a lot of times, because we set high goals, which is great, okay, sometimes we get defeated in the process. So it's just as when you're talking about timelines and measuring success, is just as important to create small mini goals, right? So the obtainable things, so that you know that you are headed in the right direction. Right. I always tell people, like, think of it like a trip. Your financial goal is kind of like driving from Maryland to Florida. Now, when you're in Maryland, Florida seems so far away, right? It just seems so far away. But if you can get to Virginia, now you kind of know that you're getting close, right? You still might be closer to Maryland than you are Florida, but you're getting closer. Right, and then you're getting into North Carolina, and then you might get some gas, right? Now here's a thing, because you get some gas, that means you're doing well, everything is kind of going over plan. But then some people make a pit stop their destination. No, you can't stop doing the very things that are getting you where you want to go. Just because you got a couple dollars doesn't mean you slack up. In fact, you want to invest more. As you pay off one bill, you want to stack that onto something else, and make sure that you are really harping in on your goals. So to answer it very, very clearly, you can't really be successful without measuring your success. You must set goals, and if you don't have, or if you're not good at that, that's why you would want to have some sort of accountability partner, a counselor, a financial guide, if you will, to help you measure that. So guys, and it's okay if you don't have a goal, or it's okay if you just have a small goal, because in any kind of increase is going to be better than staying the same. So that's my view on that.
I like that. And any increase is better than staying the same. And to me, that's how, like you said, you measure the small successes. And so you set your, financial goals, you set these things up, you give yourself timelines. I'm a planner by nature. And so for me, it was like, I need to do this by this time or that by that time. And I see a lot of, especially people, where I am in age myself, but those of us that are, through that midway point in life now,
Yep.
and we felt like, by this time, by the 30s, I should buy a house, and by 20s, I should be married. Like when you're setting those goals and those things, you have to have flexibility. And so that analogy you gave was great, because you have to have flexibility along your timeline. You know what I mean? You have to be able to be flexible if your goals change, or if your plans, because you set the goals and then you have to set the plan to reach the goals. And sometimes throughout that, things change. Life happens, right? Life happens while we're planning. And so you want to make sure that your success and how you're measuring your success, you're measuring it to what you are doing and not measuring it to what others are doing.
And that's so key. That is so key. And you just hit something right there. And we kind of say this in our business, but either way, it doesn't matter. Don't measure it against someone else's. Your goals are for you. A lot of times we got that keep up with the Joneses mentality, and what works for one person doesn't work for another. And you got to remember the iceberg theory, guys. What you see on the surface is not always what's underneath, right? You don't know what's behind closed doors. You don't know the sacrifices they made. So don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yesterday, to how you were yesterday. Compare how you were last month. Let yourself and your finances be the guide. And trust me, if you can learn to continue on that path and compound with your past efforts, you'll always win. You'll always win.
I love my co-host Tori is with us on the comments.
Hey, Tori.
Said she's not on screen today, but said Kiana is 25. I love it. Thank you. Yes, I'm only 25. I'm still in the first quarter of my goals and measuring the first quarter of life and measuring my goals and success. But that is so important. So you have to measure against what you are doing and where you are. And when it comes to financial goals, some of the things, it's funny when you say to people, I say to my clients, and they have financial goals or things they want to do. You mention budget to people, and it's almost like when people say, well, I don't have anything to budget. You got $5, you can budget $5.
Yep.
Like, it's really about taking what you have and putting something in place, right? To make sure that you're spending it the way that you need to spend it. A budget is a financial goal. You have goals within that budget. So you should have your savings in there. And, if you can only start out saving $10 a pay, that's fine. $5 a pay. And then you continue to move up, and so that's that timeline of giving yourself, those measurable and reasonable, right? And have reality behind what you're doing. You know what I mean? If you're starting out a job and you're making $50,000 this year, let's be realistic. Our goal, next year is not to triple your salary. Most places, if you have a job, you're not tripling your salary in 2 or 3 years, right? Most people don't do that in a lifetime. And so we want to make sure that the goals that we set financially are realistic, and that we can measure those goals, and don't beat yourself up if you don't reach it. You know what I mean? There's always tomorrow. There's always the next day, but you want to, start out small. Even for those people who are tithers, we talked about, and my past has always been right. You may not be able to start with the 10%. You may not be able to start there, but you have to start somewhere. You know what I mean? You don't want to not do it at all. But if you need to mature and discipline yourself to move up to those next levels, just start. Just get started, and then build the discipline to save more, to tithe more, to put more. And a lot of people think your vacation and your grooming and all of those things, that should be in your budget. Budget doesn't mean that you can't have a good time. Budget doesn't mean that you can't do things that you enjoy. You should include all of those things in your financial goal, and the things that you want to do. So we appreciate that. Make sure you guys drop your comments down. Let us know where you're watching us, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube. And as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're having a great conversation here with Jeffery Shepherd. This is really good, Jeff. You have really given us some like good analogies and comments and just things that people need. We love this show, and we love to bring people news and resources they can actually use. But like we tell them, you got to use it.
That's
And
right.
so Jeff has given us some good pointers tonight. Go through the comments, watch it on the replay, watch it again, write down those good points and the resources and the things that he has given us, because this is applicable to everyone's life that we're talking about tonight. And so, I'm enjoying finances is just a part of like what we do and what you're doing. One of the things that people talk about is emergency fund. And so we realize right now during COVID, I know a lot of people wishing they had those emergency funds, and so when you talk about doing emergency funds, is that something within your company? Do you guys discuss that and go over that type of thing with clients? Because I'm sure that is a part of also planning throughout those, final expenses, having emergency funds.
Well, as far on a company side, no, we've actually focused on the final expenses and just making sure that they have those plans. But now on a personal financial tip, I think emergency funds are essential, right? You realize, and I'm kind of making up these numbers, but they're kind of accurate. But about 70% of the population can't even put their hands on $1,000. That means if something, if there was $1,000 unexpected event, car, house, whatever, they are under. Right. And and going back to your question or your comment about budgeting. It doesn't even matter if it's $5. That is so true, because I remember the days, okay, and I was a teacher for over 12 years before I got into this industry. And I remember the days where even teaching, I was still broke. I mean, not even having $1 in my pocket, right? And I remember like learning these numbers and learning these statistics, and I'm like, if I could just, have $1,000, set aside that I didn't need to touch, I could just literally set it there and not need it the next month or 2-3 months later, I would feel good. And it took me longer than I had planned, but when I got to that point, the empowering feeling. Do you know how empowering it feels to just go into the store and say, I could buy this if I wanted to. I choose not to. That is so empowering. And it's that kind of empowerment. Again, going back to what you said earlier, that gives you the seat at the table. It's the energy and the belief that you have in yourself. A lot of times when we walk with our heads down and we just already count ourselves out of the game. We count ourselves out. So what's the point of trying? But when you start to save $5 here, $10 there, and I know it seems small, you guys, but that's the power of compounded interest. 6 months later, that $5 is now $60. Right. The next year you're at $180. I mean, so when I say next year, it's 12 months from the 6 months. So I do know how to count, y'all. But but again, when you see that money start to matriculate, then your belief level starts to increase. And here's the key, y'all. Now you start asking yourself, well, shoot, how can I squeeze another $5? Because if I'm right here, but see, if you never get to that point, you'll never have that conscious awakening, if that makes sense. So you should always start where you're comfortable, and then like you said, discipline yourself to add on. That is so true.
Yeah, most certainly. And we had to drop that comment down, because it is very empowering to be able to, make a decision, make a choice, knowing like I could do this. And so what you were talking about, the empowering, I know for me, like I get excited when I really get to a point and I'm reaching like certain financial goals. I'm reaching the amount that I want in my bank account. I'm one of those people. I know I check my bank accounts like several times a week. And so when you see like certain amounts, or you check your stock or you check your balance, I'm like, it's exciting to
Yeah.
me. Like I know it might be a little nerdy when it comes to these things, but it really is exciting because, like you said, it's empowering. It's literally an accomplishment.
Yep.
And so when you've accomplished that goal, when you say, okay, like, I want to save up to $500, you reach the $500, now you pump. You're like, man, I can go to 1,000, and and then you keep going. And so, you like we say, and we'll keep saying, you got to start somewhere, and it literally will empower you and motivate you to go further and save more, and giving that power back to yourself, having a healthy relationship with money. I will say for me, like, if I don't have like my retirement and certain things in place, and it's hard for me to spend. Like, I don't spend well. One of my other, counterparts and strategic partners in finance and accounting, we would be out, and, I might have had the money to like shop or spend, but I always had that, like, oh my gosh, I just spent $200 at the mall. I hope my tire don't bust. Like that.
Right.
It was like those type of thoughts. So I knew, like, I'm not a person like that can't save and can't have that, emergency available, because if I don't, like, it really is, it's hard for me to just kind of go out and splurge and spend. And so, we want to have those healthy relationships and with money as well. And it goes back to, like you said before, from childbirth, as children, teaching our children, sitting them down, talking about money, having them count money, not making it this like stressful thing to deal with money. And I think it just comes from childhood, when you see, you may see your parents struggling, trying to pay bills, or you hear them complaining about paying bills, or, all you hear is just kind of like negativity around money. And so it gives you this type of stress, even from a young child, to not want to deal with it. And so we have
Exactly.
to change that, mentality about dealing with money. And so that, generations moving forward can have that healthy, relationship when it comes to money, because it makes the world go round. It might can't buy love. We know we just, got over Valentine's Day just passed. Money can't, some think it can, but it really can't buy you love. It might buy you infatuation. It could buy you a relationship, but it may not, it can't buy you love. But, it does make the world go round. And so we want to make sure we have that, healthy relationship with money. Talking about COVID and kind of bringing that, back up from now, like, what do you think is one of the top like financial priorities like people should have like right now? Like, what is one of the top financial priorities that people should have during a time like this?
Wow. Well, that's a great question. And and I know people may have slightly different opinions, and I'm no guru when I'm not at my millionaire status, okay, but I can talk to you guys from the level that I'm on, and where I've come from in the past 5 to 10 years. So looking at one, you got to understand trends. So not saying that this is a trend, this is a pandemic, but again, when there's a recession, and that's what it is, okay, there's usually a gap, okay, a gap that's created. Now we already know there's a gap between the rich and the poor. Guys, I'm fair warning you guys right now. There's going to be a huger gap between the rich and the poor once this pandemic is over with. So, one, you do need to be aware of that and prepare for that. Do not take these government, um, um, uh, you know, stipends, or whatever, as a handout. Use it as a come up. Okay, don't go and splurge on, oh, I got all of this money. I know a young lady that got almost $20,000 through this past year. Okay, ask me where that money is today. Gone. Okay, so use this as a come up. Now, how can you do that? You said a couple of things. You said, and make sure you have that emergency fund set aside. Find ways to make that money make money. It could be something small, putting it into a high interest bearing account, not a savings account, one that's going to give you compounded interest. Okay, so thinking about that, putting your money somewhere where it's going to make money, right? Putting it into an account where, you know, maybe you put $2,000 in there. You know, you got 8, you put 2 in there, and I just let it sit there. And 5 years from now, it doubles. I mean, wow. I didn't have to do anything but put $2,000 in there, and I just don't touch it, and it'll double in 5 years. Where does that happen? You know,
Right.
But we don't understand this. So don't be so quick to spend. This would be the time to find resources like you, Tori, myself, and other people who are, you know, in this industry where you can create some sort of plan. There's a lot of different things that you could do. You can invest in stocks and different things. I'm not the best with all of that. You might need to get another person in here for that. But I want to say something that's going to be really beneficial for everybody. The best thing, again, I can say in this pandemic is to make sure that you do prepare. Do not think that this is going to blow over, everything is going to get better. You need to prepare now, and you need to come up now. This would be the perfect time to really be stringent. Don't go out and spend don't give all your money to Amazon. You know, don't give all your, I mean, guys, do you know how, just think about this, and I guess maybe not so much a plan for you to save, but just think about how much you're spending, y'all. How much extra money are people spending on DoorDash? Like, just because they don't want to get into the car and drive 5 minutes or 10 minutes to the store. Now, I make decent money, okay? And if just think about that. The people who make the most money are the most frugal. I wonder why that is. But
that's why they have the most money.
I will get in my car and I will drive 20 minutes to save $10. Like, that's just a no-brainer to me. But now you do that 20 times a month, you're talking about $200. But then you go back to that person who says, I can't even save $5. It's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You just got to be disciplined and watch where your money's going. So that's where it's at. Guys, if anything, pay attention to your money. Find out where it's going. A lot of us don't even know where our money is going. That's the one thing you really want to do. Understand where it's going. How many automatic accounts do you have? iTunes, Netflix. I mean, you know, is that really feasible for your budget? It's just time to start being aware. Take this time of I guess silence. You know, I know things have slowed down, but take this time to come up. Don't get frazzled. Don't be in such a rush to get through this. Take heed to what this time is all about. You know, really empowering yourself, really taking. I was the kind of person that never looked at my account. Oh my gosh, I would never look at my phone. I check it constantly. Just you know, create those self-disciplines and connect with people like the Connector and hold on, I forgot your nickname. With KB, K Bizzle. Make sure you connect with these ladies, okay? Because again, they have, and see, you may see them on this screen, okay? And they look great, sound great, but you have no idea the sacrifices and the experiences they had to go to get to this point, and they're willing to share it with you. Like, come on. So
yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, everything you said, like, valuable. Again, just dropping the nuggets that you're giving us tonight, bringing people, you know, resources and just information that's valuable to them. I definitely like using the money that you're getting. Like you said, you know, people are going out, they're spending, they're doing all kind of stuff with some of the stimulus money. People got, you know, lots of money or lump sums from unemployment and all of these type of things. But like you said, use these stimulus checks and things that we're getting. Supposed to be relief. You know, I don't know how much relief it is, but you can make it a relief for you. and do some of the things that Jeff has said, make money for you. You had a business idea, put aside money, you can invest. You have all the different apps now out here that you can invest on, Robinhood and Acorn and Stacks, even through Cash App. You can buy stocks and things through your Cash App. And so that's a way that you can, invest that money, and you don't have to be a financial guru to do that, to learn. Just start small and start somewhere with, turning that money around and making it work for you, and starting your, emergency fund with it. I mean, those are things that, are going to be important moving forward, because we definitely have to be ready for coming out of this. And so one of the things that, talking about and investing in those type of things, is investment philosophy. Now we both have license in financial services. Again, I'm not prescribing any type of investment philosophy for anyone, but just having a background and understanding like the principles of savings, right? And your guide and what you want to do. A lot of people now are doing Forex and doing trading and getting into stocks. And I just encourage people to really do your homework, do your reading. And if it's something that you want to do, again, you can start small, just in some of the apps that are out here now to help you save your money. But like Jeff said, just be wise. Just don't go out and go on a shopping spree and spend and give all your money to Amazon, unless you're buying Amazon stock, which is up there. It's like almost 2,000 if it's still there. I think it's going up a share. So if you're going to do something, with that stimmy check, as they say, that stimulus check, is, buy some stock and watch it grow and look at that, and and you'll see that your money will continue to grow. But have some type of plan. If you're able right now to put more money into your retirement plan, I have a goal to not work for anybody after 55. And so I'm, on a much higher percentage. I'm probably up to like 8 or 9% into my retirement plan now, and I'll, just continue to increase it. But I'm not going out and spending as much. Like you said, now, some people might not be quarantined as much. It ain't that much party. It ain't that much I need to do right now. And so I'm, taking this time to say, you know what? Yeah, I like to socialize. I'm not quite a socialite, but I'm a sociable person. But right now, it's like, is it needed? I'm really looking at this time to use it to plan and cut back on some of those expenses. And so where some people are spending more, I'm using that time to spend less, and then putting it into, more into a retirement plan or more into a savings. And so, just think about some of those things that you can do. And again, contact, Jeff or myself. We all, if we don't do it ourselves, then we have other people in the financial industry that can help you with specific financial goals that you may have. But you definitely want to, look into different ways that you can invest and come up with a investment strategy or philosophy for yourself, and use this pandemic time to do that. Think about things of how to come up and come out of this better. Like, I think everybody should definitely, you've really mishandled this time if you are not coming out of this better than what you went into it. And I think that is something that people really need to kind of think about when you're talking about investing, like taking that time. And I've seen a lot of people, not everybody, like a lot of people have gotten in trading and stocks and, those type of things, because we realize if nothing else, if, like Jeff said, if COVID has not taught us, that gap between the haves and the have-nots have definitely increased. And some people who thought they was a have realized during COVID that you really kind of want to have not side. And so you really want to take this time to look into that and, get a little better with finances and savings. And like we said, connecting the finances and the things that you're doing now to your future. It's like I tell my children now, like your spending habits and the things that you do when you're young, you take that into your adulthood and as you get older. And so teaching them early about saving and, delayed gratification for some of the things that you may want. If you put it off a little longer, you'll enjoy it more, but you'll also put yourself in a better financial situation. So we want to say hi to Haki. Hi, thanks for joining us tonight on the Connected Corner. We see you down there. Drop your comments. We want to hear from you guys. Again, if you're watching on a replay, let us know that you're watching on a replay. And you can go up and answer the questions and get some of this great information that we're getting tonight, talking about how you can connect your finances to your future, making sure you're in a better place financially coming out of the COVID. And so we want to hear from you. Continue to drop your comments down here. We have a few more minutes left. And again, the Connected Corner bringing you news and resources you can actually use. And so we talked about measuring success and timelines and goals and investment philosophy. One of the next things we want to talk about are like, what are 3 basic questions we should ask ourselves, or 3 basic questions when it comes to your personal. So we're talking about now personal finances that you want to be able to ask yourself. And we kind of touched on one of them, and that's, do you have an emergency fund, and do you have enough in that emergency fund? Is one of the questions that you can ask yourself. Do you have an emergency fund? And if you do you have enough in that emergency fund? From your experience, Jeff, what are I know some people say 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months of your bills or things that you should have in your emergency fund. What are some of your experience with that, with emergency funds, like your personal, I guess, philosophy on how much you should have saved up?
Well, personally, like I said, my story, I thought about if I could just have $1,000. I thought that was everything. So when I got to that point, now it was about beating that goal, right? So you should always have as much as you can, but right now I would say at least 6 months. 6 months, because again, a lot can happen in that 6 months, and if you have something, if you have enough to kind of carry you over, then it kind of again goes back to that belief. Is even if something happens, you're still kind of you have that control, so to speak, and you're not forced into situations that you wouldn't be if you didn't have that money. So I'd say 6 months, but again, if you can only start with 1 month or 3 months. But my mentor, Dr. Wilson, he said, and I'm still getting there. But he was like, man, forget a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. What's the 100-year plan? So I'm always thinking about, ahead and just increasing my bar. So yes, I'd say 6 months, but that ain't enough either. You got to do it. You got to have really, when you can get to the point where and I've seen this happen in real life. I associate around several people who have done exceptionally well. Man, when you can get to the point where your emergency fund, it's not even an emergency fund. Like, it doesn't even matter. Now know you're hitting somewhere. But until we get to that point, I have about 6 months, set aside.
Yeah. So for those who are joining or listening, we are talking about what are 3 personal basic finance questions we need to answer. And so when you're talking about answering, answer for yourself. So 3 basic personal finance questions that we need to answer. The first one is your emergency fund sufficient? So we're talking about having a sufficient emergency fund is one of the questions that we talked about. Another question is, I know people think about this, what would happen if you were to lose your job? And so when you think about those type of things, if you put those things in the forefront, not that we want them to happen, it'll kind of make you make a little bit different financial decisions. One of my aunts always told me that even if you're in a 2-income household, your housing expense should not be more than not one person. So one person should be able to handle your housing expense, even if you're in a 2-parent household. So I'm gonna give y'all 2 family tips that I got. So one is, if you are in a 2-income household, make sure that your housing expense, one of those persons can take care of your housing expense by themselves with their income. What leads to that, my uncle always taught me, James Bond, don't be house broke. And so house broke, if people don't know, what that means is, it's a little more, it's not just living above your means, but house broke is just that, like, your housing expense really shouldn't be more than 30% of what you're bringing in, on a monthly basis. And so if it's more than that and you can't do anything but pay your mortgage and your rent and your household bills, that means you house broke. So you good, y'all got the roof over your head and you're eating, but it's your house broke because you can't do nothing outside of that. And so, we want to make sure that those are some of the questions that you are asking yourself. Jeff, you have any other personal basic financial questions like come to mind that you ask yourself or ask, other people?
Well, not so much questions, but principles, kind of like you're talking about. So one of those is oh Lord, I just lost that thought. Hold on, give me a second.
Bring it back to him, God. Bring it back.
Gotta bring it back. What was the last thing you said? Give me a second, because I was looking at something else.
We was talking about, the last thing I talked about, when not being house broke. And so 30, your household expenses shouldn't be 30%, shouldn't be more than 30% of what you're bringing in.
Absolutely. So yes, taking a point to know where you are. So here's a question that most people hide under the covers and they just don't want to know the answer. Are you living above your means? Like, you're like you said, you should be about 30%, but really, a lot of times we're living at 90, 100% of what we're getting paid. Take a hard look at your finances. You really should be working to get your main bills, mortgage, certain, monthly bills, about 50% or less of your monthly income. Really, you want to be about 30. That's great. But 50% is a start. And usually when you take a hard look, you're going to find that you actually are probably more than 50%. So now what are your options, right? Well, you can decrease some of your monthly, bills, which you could do, or maybe you can't. And now you need to be more creative about bringing more income. But again, like I stated earlier, any increase is better than where you are. So just knowing where you stand, and guys, I know how you feel out there. Sometimes we don't even want to know, right? But you gotta know, because if you don't know, if you don't have a goal, if you don't know where you're headed, if you don't have a target, how will you know, if you're getting close? And then now, like you just said, what happens if you leave that job or lose that job? Now you are really screwed, basically. So again, knowing where you stand, taking that hard look at your finances, and you may be way off target. Okay, I was way off target. Okay, I remember days. I remember the days where I'd be in the store with my kids and, Dad, can I get something? I really didn't have the money, but I had to cover it up. Well, hold up, your room ain't clean. You got homework to do. You come on, we all been there where it ain't even really the kid, right? But it ain't the kid, it's me, right? It's me.
You gotta earn that.
and we put it on the outer, but guys, we gotta look inner. It wasn't about the kids. It was really about me not feeling. I felt broke. I didn't have the money, so I could change that. Right, by certain daily disciplines, and hey, I might have to go without to make sure that my son has. And hey, it is what it is, and I'll take that sacrifice all day, every day, to see the look on my kids' faces.
And you talked about children. I think one of the other questions that a lot of people are concerned about, if you have children, a question you should ask yourself: how are you going to pay for their education? You know, if your children have aspirations to go to college or, you know, further their education, I know Maryland has the 529 plan. You know, there's some different things. You know, my mother told me when I hit high school, it was 10th grade. She was like, I know you plan on going to college. So let me let you know right now, I had no money. So if you're going to college, you need to get a full scholarship. And so I knew that going into high school, like, okay, I want to go to college. My mom already told me she don't have no money to pay for college. So I need to get a full scholarship. And it's similar conversation I had with my children. Not so much, you know, I don't have any, you know, money. There was a plan to help them pay for it, but definitely still on that, hey, you need to work hard, you know, and get those scholarships as well. But that is also something, you know, some children are foregoing education. Some people are starting more now on the community college level, you know, for those that want their children to further their education. I think mindsets have changed to not go so much in debt when it comes to education now. I think people are, you know, not choosing to do that. As you know, I know growing up, you know, pushed, you know, to really go to college, get that education. But I think now where we're looking at our generation that is, you know, above and drowning in student loan debts and things of that nature, are saying, let's take a different approach when it comes to, you know, our children, and teaching them a little bit different, not to come out in debt. Like, you go to school, you get this education, but you come out of college already above water in debt. And so, you know, just kind of thinking about that, you know, how are you going to pay for kids' education? Are they going to college and things like that? And so, you know, this has been a great, great conversation. We're, you know, ending the end of the show. I think we did a good job, you know, Jeff, talking about finances and money and budget, and, you know, not making it so daunting for people, but it's something that we do have to discuss in our community. It's important that we, you know, keep our pulse on what's happening in the world financially, and so that we, you know, don't always have this feeling that we're behind the eight ball, or, you know, we're constantly in the have-nots. A lot of that can change just by having a financial plan, by making sure that, you know, you and your family are sitting down and talking about and planning out final expenses, you know, because that hit a lot of people if you don't have plans for that. And so it just takes a lot of planning and budgeting, and starting somewhere that you can start small and just start building from there. So one of the last questions, I just love asking this question, and so just a fun question since we're talking about finances and money. Jeff, how much money is in the world?
Oh my goodness. You know, I mean, I would say this. Um, there is abundant opportunity if we work within our passion. I mean, if you want me to put a dollar amount, I mean, I couldn't even do it.
Yeah,
Because money is money is based on the value that we give it, right? I mean, you know, I can't answer that as far as a dollar amount, but when I hear that question, it really makes me think about just understanding, guys, that there's no limit or there's no ceiling, but the ones that we put on ourselves. You know, you said that most times we can't triple our income. And if we stay in the same place doing the same thing day after day, then you're absolutely right. But the one thing we can do is we can increase through our own personal and self-development, you know, and there's an abundant amount of ability for us to increase ourselves. Now, people may differ with my philosophy here, but I truly believe that if we all worked in our passion, then we would rid the world. Now, again, people are going to be people, but we would rid the world of a lot of greed. People are greedy when they are in fear of losing something. But if we all had our own thing, like again, my passion is final expense. Why do I don't need to squawk and worry about someone who's doing, portfolio investments or stocks. There's so many different passions in the world. If we could just worry about our ceiling and increasing ourselves, then we will realize that this is limitless. So I'm gonna say this: I'm more concerned about the abundance of money in the community, in everyone's household, and bringing it in, as opposed to what's out there in the world. What good is all that money if it's not helping you guys, the listeners? So increase yourselves, increase your awareness, increase your circle. You may have to decrease your circle in order to increase yourself, if that makes sense, because a lot of times the people we even associate with affect us whether we realize it or not. So that's how I would answer that question. I know that wasn't very direct, but
no, that was excellent. So some of it is just that, like, there's more, there's vast, it's a lot. But I like the approach that you took in answering it and saying basically there's enough. There's more than enough for you to work inside your passion and your gifts, and you can make all money that you want to make if you're putting your gifts and your talents and things in place, right? And increasing that for yourself. So I think that's a good place for us to go ahead and end. And I want you to tell the people where they can find you, how we can support you, how can we find you on social media, and your website.
Okay, well, first I want to give a shout out to Take Charge Financial Group. I love you guys. UBI Southeast, UBI Universal Benefits. And I want to make sure I give a shout out to all of them. You can reach me on social media at my first name on Facebook, obviously, or Take Charge Group. That would be our Facebook page. You can reach us. Lord, I usually have a person that does this for me. Hold on. What is our Instagram? Take Charge. Take Charge Now is our Instagram. I will make sure that I get that information. However, if you go to our website, that's a one-stop shop. TakeChargeFinancialGroup.com. You can connect to us on social media. You can leave us a message. We're here to be of service. And I just want to leave with this one thought too, as far as abundance. Guys, we spend so much money out there, it's ridiculous. But I just want you to think about this. You could spend $60 on a Nike shirt, right? Or you could actually spend $60 on your own brand, right? Now you're increasing your brand, but guess what? I just helped someone else. I helped someone else because they had to make this, right? So now I'm investing into my community, to the people who do embroidery, right? So again, there is money, but we are conditioned to spend it all or give it all to one place, or to the bigger industries. Support your local businesses. And I know you know about this. You really know who your friends and family are when you get in business for yourself. Guys,
Yes.
support your family. Support doesn't mean you got to buy something from them. That's not what they want. Sometimes it just may be hey, you can do this. I believe in you. Hey, I was thinking about you. Here's someone that might be interested. Guys, support can come a lot of different ways. So let's support each other. Let's build each other. And again, come shout me out. TakeChargeFinancialGroup.com. TakeChargeFinancialGroup.com.
Thank you, Jeff. We are so happy to have you on the Connected Corner tonight. I love the way you ended that and talking about supporting. We have to support one another, and we thank you so much for being here tonight, dropping knowledge and nuggets for us, and how we can get better in our finances. This is a great conversation for us to have tonight. And so if you're watching on the replay, go through the comments. Also, let us know you're watching on the replay, and you can still answer some of the questions that we answered here tonight. We want you to subscribe to the Connected Corner. Hit the button, subscribe. And it's your girl, Kiana B. Jones. You can find me on social media, Kiana B. Jones, on all social media platforms. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight, and check us next week on the Connected Corner. Have a good night. Peace.